start with this. For the past several weeks, and long before that, we've been repeatedly told that banning abortion is especially an attack on racial minorities, right? We've heard this many times. Black women suffer the most from not being able to kill their children, we're told. But this line of attack, I guess, proved not very effective, and it sounds wrong, doesn't it, to say that? So it seems like the left has abandoned it for now and gone all the way to the other extreme. So this is what they do, of course. If one narrative doesn't work, just try the exact opposite of that narrative. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if what you're saying from one sentence to the next is coherent or makes sense. So Alexandria Samuels is a reporter for 538, and she tweeted this yesterday. She said, "The fight over abortion rights is tied to the great replacement theory and fears that white people will become a minority. That fear never left the anti-abortion movement, which at its core has always been about upholding white supremacy." And she links to an article in 538 authored by herself and someone named Monica Potts, titled, "How the Fight to Ban Abortion is Rooted in the Great Replacement Theory." So here's how it begins. It says, "It may not be immediately obvious how the fight over abortion rights is tied to the Great Replacement Theory, the debunked conspiracy theory promoted by some Republican politicians who claim that Democrats support more immigration to replace white American voters. But the explanation for, say, an alleged gaffe that overturning the constitutional right to an abortion is a historic victory of white life, quote unquote, or a concern that not enough white babies are being born in the U.S., can be found in the history of the anti-abortion movement. The movement to end legal abortion has a long racist history, and like the Great Replacement Theory, it has roots in a similar fear that white people are going to be outnumbered by people believed to hold a lower standing in society. Those anxieties used to be centered primarily around various groups of European immigrants and newly emancipated slaves, but now they're focused on non-white Americans who, as a group, are on track to numerically outpace non-Hispanic white Americans by 2045, et cetera and so forth. The anti-abortion movement, at its core, has always been about upholding white supremacy, right? Now, we have to, of course, stipulate at the outset, once again, that the so-called Great Replacement Theory is not a theory, and it's not something that the right invented. It's something that the left came up with, and it's a thing that they're actually doing and that they've been very open about. They are importing voters from other countries. This is very clearly what they're doing. It is not a conspiracy theory. It's not a guess. It's not an opinion. It's just what they're doing. And they've often admitted it. You could just quote them directly talking about this. But that aside, you see how this narrative completely contradicts the one they were going with up until 5 seconds ago. Before it was, well, it's wrong to ban abortion because black women, in particular, quote unquote, need abortions. And now it's wrong to ban it because this is a conspiracy to increase the percentage of white people in the population. Well, this doesn't make any sense at all. Here's the figure that matters. Black women are 7% of the population, give or take. The black population as a whole is about 13%. So women, we figure, probably 7% or so. And they account for, I think it's about 34% of abortions. So well over 4 times their population percentage. And what that means is that when you ban abortion, you are going to increase the black population as a percentage of the overall whole, much more than you're going to increase the white population as a percentage of the overall whole. That's just the fact of the matter. So you could try to say whatever you want about pro-lifers, but the claim that, and whichever angle you're coming from, the claim that pro-lifers are racist and that the push to ban abortion is a racist conspiracy, it just doesn't make any sense. Given that every pro-lifer knows that you get rid of abortion, and that means that you're going to end up with more minorities, not less, as a percentage. In fact, that's not just something that we're aware of. That's something that we often talk about and observe how Planned Parenthood was born in, as a in eugenics. I mean, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, was a eugenicist. And she believed in using abortion to get rid of what she considered to be the dregs of society. She was very open about that. In fact, the early advocates of abortion were all very open about their eugenicist leanings. They consider this to be one of the great selling points of abortion. They've talked about it all the time. So this is something that this is something pro-lifers very often bring up. Get rid of abortion, and racial minorities will end up being less of a minority than they are now. And you can look at the figures on this, and it's hard to estimate exactly, but how many fewer Black people are in the country today because of abortion? I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, and like I said, it's a difficult thing to, there's not an exact figure you can arrive at, but it's certainly millions. If not for abortion, there would be millions more Black people in the country today than there currently are. So banning abortion is racist, right? Makes a lot of sense. All right, moving on to this. Dr. Fauci.